Hey, what's up, Crypto Army? I'm Travis, your crypto newbie, bringing you my experiences. You have to learn things the hard way. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor, and none of my content should be viewed as financial advice. Today, just a quick update on Reflex Finance. Now, I already did a video very similar to this right before launch when I talked about basically what it would be like to get the whitelist or the pre-sale pricing when you buy your tokens. And potentially at that point, it would have been trillions of tokens that you were buying and the passive income that results from having trillions of tokens. Now, it's been a month and buying trillions of tokens is still possible, but it costs a lot more money. So I don't think most of us have $100,000 laying around. So I thought it'd be a good idea to do an updated video on the passive income potential of Reflex Finance. Now, again, I'm not a financial advisor and a lot of the stuff inside this video is accurate, but it's contingent on a lot of different factors. So just keep that in mind as we go through. These are just different scenarios of what could happen. You have to evaluate the token based off what you think the potential is for this token. Now, personally, I think it has a lot of potential. I think that Reflex Finance has a phenomenal team behind it. I think they've got a really solid plan moving forward, and they continue to hit their deadlines, which is always a positive in the crypto space. Most projects don't do that, but it's still early. There's a lot going on with Reflex Finance. They've got their Launchpad and DEX launching in early April. And with that, we're going to start seeing major utility come into play, and that should result in some more volume for this token. And keep in mind, right now they're only listed on PancakeSwap and one exchange. So when you look at the charts for Reflex Finance, keep that in mind. It's maintaining pretty solid volume, having only one exchange and PancakeSwap. That's it. And they've already got staking. And they're generally somewhere right around between 400 and 600,000 in volume every single day. If you look at their chart over the last 30 days, you can see it's pretty much flat. Up and down, within a pretty tight range. That's pretty amazing for any token. Now, a lot of tokens, you'll see these huge increases, and then you'll see the corresponding decrease. And then you'll see it go down and down and down and down. You're not seeing that with Reflex Finance because they continue to hit their deadlines. And a lot of investors like it when projects hit their deadlines and they release a quality product. Their staking launch was phenomenal. It didn't have any problems. And more importantly, it's safer because it keeps the tokens in your wallet. There's less potential for issues because they're stored in your wallet. And I think a lot of people like how this team is going about doing things. Now, nobody can predict what the volume is going to be for the DEX or for the Launchpad. And it sounds like most of the profits that they're going to get from the Launchpad is going right back into buyback and burn, which is basically buying Reflex token and burning it. So you get a big green candle and you see a slight price increase from the burn. Over time, that price increase gets more and more dramatic because you're constantly burning tokens. It sounds like a project that's got a lot of potential, but again, do your own research. Now let's go talk about passive income. Now, these are the equations. So if you want to do the math, all the equations are right here and easy for you to understand. Total supply, they've got 1 quadrillion tokens. They burn 348 trillion, leaving 651 trillion available tokens. An 8% distribution rate. Now that will bump up to 10% at phase 2. So we'll show both numbers here as we go through. Today's current price isn't relevant to the equations on this side, but it is relevant over here when we're talking about purchasing tokens. So that's why that's in here. I've said that the average volume is around 500,000. So I just threw that in there because that's pretty much what it is right now. I'm making an assumption that you're going to spend $1,000. Now that doesn't mean you're spending $1,000 today. That just means that you're trying to get to 22 billion tokens. Now compare this with other projects that are out there. Are you able to get to 22 billion? A lot of projects that are out there are 1 quadrillion tokens. A 1 quadrillion to a 1 quadrillion project, the number of tokens matters. Now, another factor is obviously the burn as well. And then the other aspects that matter is how does the burn wallet get those burn tokens put into it? In this case, it's buyback and burn. So it's a little bit different. It doesn't actually get a distribution, which is why we can use this number here for the total supply. When they go through and distribute rewards, the burn wallet doesn't get a share of the rewards, so that's why we can use this number. But if you're comparing this project to other projects, that's a relevant factor that you need to consider. That way you're not comparing apples and grapefruits, for example. You want to make sure that you're comparing a green apple to a red apple. if that makes sense. But here's your equation. Now, based off of this, the market share that you're going to get. Now, if you really want to compare to BSC scan and what the share that it shows you there, you would have to multiply this by 100. I don't multiply it by 100, which is why I don't have that part of the formula up here. So this is just the pure market share number, not necessarily the market share percentage. And you can compare this, again, to other projects. Dollar for dollar, what's going to get you a higher market share? Because that tells you the potential rewards you might get from this project to a different project. Now, there's some other factors you got to consider when you're comparing projects to other projects. What is the potential for volume? Some projects have a lot of potential for volume, some don't. If you're comparing a brand new project and all it has on the roadmap is they're going to do a wallet and an exchange, it might not have the potential to get that much volume if that's all they're looking at doing, because there's a lot of projects that are looking at doing those things. But then we come down here and we can see that getting 22 billion tokens with $500,000 in volume every single day would result in $513 a year. And that's not a lot. But we're also talking about a project that really the only utility they have right now is staking. And I look at staking as a utility because it's paying you directly. There's no better utility in my mind than one that literally pays you money for staking. So yeah, that's utility in my mind. A lot of people benefit from staking, but I consider that their first utility. And you can calculate exactly what your profit is on that based off of the APR that you're locked in for. And at the end of the year, the APY. It's just a little harder to calculate without knowing what the final price is after it's removed from staking. But anyway, back to this. What if it's higher than 500,000? Here's the importance of you doing your own research. What is the potential for Reflex Finance based off the utility that we're aware of? Now, keep in mind, they've got that secret utility that we have no idea what it is. All that we know is that it's not connected to anything they're currently doing. So it has nothing to do with Operation 7. It has nothing to do with the Launchpad or the DEX. It's something completely different. And then they've also got that influencer marketplace, and they got some other stuff on the roadmap as well. But the Launchpad really is, along with the DEX, significant utility potential. If they make that deadline and they release a high quality product, the volume's probably going to go up. Now, again, other factors, what's going on in the market, what's going on with the war with the Ukraine. There's a whole bunch of other factors that make it really hard to predict what is the actual volume going to be over time. But I don't see anything that prevents this project from pulling in millions of dollars in volume from their Launchpad all by itself. And then you've got the DEX. And if the DEX is as good or better than PooCoin, that potentially produces even more volume. So I don't think it's a stretch to say in the short term, $20 million in volume is possible. So let's go ahead and put $20 million in the box. Now, as you can see with $20 million, now we're looking at about $20,000 a year in passive income for that $1,000 investment. Now, at $20 million in volume, this is not going to be the price. If we're getting $20 million in volume, you can bet that this price has gone up and you are no longer getting 22 billion tokens for $1,000. So you can wipe that away. That's where the price matters right now. This price is probably going to go up. Would it match, say, Evergrow coin? Or would it match Shiba Inu? I'm not sure. Shiba Inu has been around for a while, so my guess is probably not. But I think it's entirely possible that the price could be very similar to what Evergrow coin's current price is, if not higher, based off a $20 million volume. And maybe some other exchanges along the way. What if it gets to $200 million? Then what are we talking about? Now, with $200 million in volume, you can see that this passive income gets pretty good for this $1,000 investment. Now, again, I always look 5 to 8 years. Is it possible that in the next 5 to 8 years, when the secret utility is out there, when the full Operation 7 Launchpad DEX and everything else they're putting into that product is out there, is it possible that they're at $200 million? Yeah, I see that's absolutely possible that it could be at $200 million. And if you think $200 million is too high, well, cut it in half. Maybe it's $100 million. That's still over $100,000 a year in passive income. Now, this is why I always recommend looking 5 to 8 years. If you're young right now and you're watching these videos, 5 to 8 years might seem like a really long time, but I'm telling you, it's not. Not a long time. Now, if you're a little bit older, if you're looking for quicker returns on your investment, that's always possible. Again, look at SHIB. Less than a year and it was $1 billion. I just can't say that that's a guarantee. Nobody can. I think it's more likely in 5 to 8 years that it could be $200 million to $1 billion. I don't know. If I had a crystal ball and could tell you that, I'd be rich myself. I don't have that crystal ball. But I see the potential that this team could pull something like that off because they are hitting their deadlines. They're doing a great job with it. And they're a very professional team. Now over here, $1,000, 15% is the tax, $22 billion. At $200 million, it takes you 2 days to pay off your $1,000. And you can do the math down here to see that. $562 a day in passive income. It's going to take you 2 days to get that $1,000 back. Now, when the volume is a little bit lower like it is right now, but around 500,000, you can see that it's going to take a little bit longer to repay that $1,000 because you're only getting about $1.40 a day, give or take. But keep in mind, 500,000 is kind of an average. It goes up, it goes down. Right now, it's right around an average of 500,000. It's entirely possible that over the next month, especially once they start launching the products that they've got coming up in April, it's possible and even likely that this volume is going to go up. And as they get on exchanges, this number of days here might go up or might go down. But more than likely, it's probably going to go down. Again, that's just my opinion. Do your own research. Understand what we're talking about. You can do all these calculations. This Excel is on the banner to my page. It makes it very easy to do your own calculations. Now, there's also a calculator built into the rewards dashboard that you can go there as well. I prefer an Excel that I can kind of manipulate and do the math myself. And it seems to work pretty good. That way you can kind of play around with which token do you want to invest in? Do you want to do Reflex or maybe you want to do Evergrow Coin? I do comparisons based off where I think the best return on my investment is going to be. And right now, I think that's with Reflex Finance. Now, I've said this many times on my channel. I look for multiple sources of passive income. You want to diversify your portfolio. So Reflex Finance is just one of the projects I invest in. Evergrow Coin is another. There are several projects that I cover on my channel that I also invest in. I look at these as long-term investments to get to the high volumes of next year or 2 years from now. So I hold my investments and grow them through staking or yield farming to try to increase this number for when I'm ready for retirement. And hopefully the volume starts to go up a little bit quicker and we get past this craziness with the Ukraine. And maybe that 5 to 8 year plan becomes a 1 to 2 year plan. That'd be nice, right? That's kind of all of our hopes. We'd love to be millionaires tomorrow. But the reality is that doesn't always happen. And you can't always bet on it, but you can bet on the teams with the good fundamentals. And that's one of the things that Reflex has going for it. It's got a phenomenal team and they got a really solid plan for the future. But again, don't take my word on it. Go do your own research. I've got plenty of content on Reflex Finance. Now, full disclaimer, if you're watching this for the first time, you've never watched any of my videos, I am an investor in Reflex Finance. I'm an investor in most of the projects I cover on my channel. Almost every video that I cover on my channel, I tell you whether I've invested in the project. Now, sometimes I skip it because I've done quite a few videos on Reflex Finance, and I'm assuming that you probably watched a few other ones also, but just for everybody that's watching this that has never watched my content before, I am an investor in Reflex Finance. But I'm always going to tell you my thoughts on the project, regardless of whether that's good or bad. Right now, I don't have anything negative to say about Reflex Finance. But if something pops up, I'm going to tell you, even if that hurts my investment. Now, I've mentioned Evergrow Coin throughout the course of this video. I'm also an investor in Evergrow Coin. And I'm also an investor in SafeMoon. All three projects have quite a lot going on for the month of March and going into April. Whether it's Evergrow Coin with Crater and their NFT marketplace, or SafeMoon with their cross-chain swap. They've both got a lot of potential for both volume and price increase. Just to be aware of. Not to complicate your choice on whether to invest in Reflex or Evergrow Coin or SafeMoon. But all three projects have quite a lot going on right now for you to consider when you're investing. But again, consider market share as part of that decision. And I mentioned the market share because the higher your market share, the higher potential down here based off volume. And right now, between the three, with Reflex being the newest project, with a solid team and the solid fundamentals of the project, it has a lot of potential to create a lot of passive income for you moving forward. Now, hopefully you found this content helpful. Let me know in the comments. Which project are you investing in? Is it going to be Reflex, Evergrow Coin, or SafeMoon? Or something entirely different? There's a lot of really good investments right now, and there's a lot of projects that are launching that are good options as well. But I'm curious to hear, what are you invested in? If you have $1,000, where are you putting your money right now? Until next time, stay strong with those diamond hands.